Good morning and welcome back to Ancaf. It's 420 and Easter Sunday, and we just passed Slavery Day this week, the day that we risk incriminating ourselves to the IRS, and it's actually kind of close to the time where, for most people, you finally start earning some income for yourself. So I know you guys know this, but most people will work about 4 months of the year in servitude to the government, and if you count all the taxes we pay, it's probably longer. Somewhere between May or June, you're actually starting to earn some income for yourself. So we are somewhere between 1/3 and 1/2, roughly, slaves, maybe a little bit more. But if it makes you feel better, all that money goes to pedophiles who love to blow up women and children all over the world. Okay, sorry, that's a little dark for the morning. I'm always a little grumpy around tax time when I think about the reality of what's really going on, but it is Easter. It's a beautiful day outside, and if you celebrate, I hope you're having a good time with your family. And one piece of good news, I got my voluntarist comic in the mail this week, and right in the middle of it, you will notice a beautiful advertisement for yours truly, Drop the Mask Podcast. If you haven't checked out Voluntarist, it's really good. Go check it out. It's got a fun story. Series from Jack Lloyd, and if you guys haven't seen it, really go get it, go pick it up, if nothing else, to support me. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about taxes or Easter today. Here I'm talking about the process, not trying to tell you what to think, although I'm not perfect. Some of that is going to slip in, I'm sure. But how do we understand what's going on in the world, especially when the news is all fake and our government and all our institutions are so corrupt? It's rough out there, but there are strategies. I know a few, and I'm learning as I go. Have some coffee with me. Let's try to sort through it together. Put your comments in the chat, and I'll try to get to it live. First thing today, I know it's a week old now, but it continues to be interesting. People haven't stopped talking about it. The Dave Smith versus Douglas Murray debate. If you didn't see the last couple shows I did, the overarching theme is basically that Murray embarrassed himself with terrible arguments. He showed contempt for even being in the same room as Dave Smith. He tried to shame Joe Rogan for platforming the wrong people, in his estimation, and advocated for the wars in Ukraine and Israel. He lost a lot of respect from me, and I know from a lot of other people, except for James Lindsay. Shocker, right? But Dave did a follow-up appearance on Piers Morgan's show, where he was attacked from all kinds of angles. But to finish off the show, he talked to Eric Weinstein about it. And this was a better discussion, done in good faith, as far as I can tell. Eric's a very smart guy. I hope we can agree on that. That doesn't mean he's always right, of course, but I put him in the category of people that when I find myself in disagreement with him, I will always listen. I want to know if I'm getting something wrong, and Eric might be able to convince me. So, they start talking about Dave and Douglas's conversation here, and on the idea of platforming and free speech, the topic of World War II was brought up. And that's where we're going to start with this.
So the concern that I have is there's no real solution if we try to solve this problem in terms of platforming, free speech, who's an expert, who isn't, what's the credential. We're not even being genuine, in my opinion, about what it is that we're talking about. Let's give a simple example. I can essentially guarantee you that 6 million people on the nose of Jewish faith were not killed during the Holocaust. I don't know what the number was, but the odds that it would have all of those round zeros and come in exactly where it does is negligible. Every time I hear somebody make that point, I worry, right? Because the idea is it's like somebody picking at the asbestos who isn't looking like a registered asbestos removal company.
Okay, stop in there for a minute. What do you think? At the end there, he says he's nervous about people picking at the asbestos when they're not looking like a registered or licensed asbestos removal company. And to me, that's already accepting the frame of someone needs to be credentialed in order to do such things. I don't know if that's what he really meant. That's a small piece of it that could have been just a poor phrasing, but interesting though. But I get his bigger point that there are subjects like this, when people start picking at them, you get a little bit apprehensive. But why? In the case of asbestos, if they're not properly aware of the risks and dangers, trained in removal in that way, they could cause harm to themselves or others around them. So I think that's a similar point that he's trying to make with picking at the story of World War II and the Holocaust. Was it exactly 6 million people? Probably not, but how important is that? And let's go on, because he'll explain further here, if it'll.
There's a way in which World War II settled in a particular way, which is, thank God we didn't appease infinitely. We had an absolute monster on our hands. There were extermination camps. Genocide matters as a word. We sat with Stalin despite our obvious differences, because sometimes you have to do. There's a certain sort of story about it. It's kind of directionally true if imperfect, because it's too clean, it's too clear, et cetera, et cetera. What you see now is this mania for, hey, I found out all of these interesting facts. Did you know about the Rosenstrasse protest? What was that? Oh, where women married to half Jewish men got their men back by protesting in Rosenstrasse, showing that the Nazis could be made to relent. No, I didn't know that. So now you're in a situation in which each kind of fact, whether it's the McCullum memo or the Rosenstrasse protest, is an opportunity to pick at the asbestos.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about this, because it might not seem like it, but this is loaded with all kinds of stuff. The way that we understand history is really fascinating. If you think about that we just collected all the facts and put them together in a textbook, and there is one true story of World War II, in this case, that's just not right. That's kind of childish, very simplistic. Like, look at the news. They can't even get a story that happened hours ago right. If you ask two people who were at the same event, standing right next to each other, you might get two completely different accounts of what just happened. So, even if they're 100% honest, which you shouldn't think they are, but hypothetically, even if they were being completely honest and had no intention to skew anything, they will do it anyway, because people aren't wired to be perfect recorders of information. That's just not how we work. So, to think that something happened 80-ish years ago is fully accurate through retellings and edits and government influence through the years, to think that is going to be fully true, it's just wrong. It's not. But on the flip side, there's something that Eric calls directional truth. And as a society, we kind of have a collective understanding of what is the takeaway from that moment in history. And if it's that fascism and hypernationalism is bad and that we should never target groups based on ethnicity, then yes, that's a good direction. So it's understandable to get nervous when someone starts picking at it, because then if some of the facts are not true in that narrative, then someone might conclude, as some do already, that the direction is not true either, that we should rethink this ideology and maybe Hitler wasn't a monster, and that's not a road that I think we should go down either. So, a few minutes earlier in the show, Dave had called people's obsession with World War II a religion, which I get, because it's about the only piece of history that most people seem to remember. For a long time, it was World War II, where everyone said, everyone I don't like is Hitler, and then Harry Potter analogies from the mainstream, from the left mostly. Those seem to be the only things that they knew about. Now, they had to disavow Harry Potter because they incorrectly believe that J.K. Rowling hates trans people, a very low IQ take, but let's not get into that. Anyway, Eric responds to the comparison of the World War II collective narrative to a religion here, and then we'll get more into what we should be picking at.
Partially, it's not really a religion, and I talked to Dave about this morning privately. There's a French philosopher, I think his name is Renan, whose great quote is, "A nation is a group of people who have agreed to forget something in common." Unfortunately, we have a very simplistic notion at the moment that because we've been lied to by these elites, and boy, is that clear over the last several years, we are now deciding that we're going to pick at everything that might be a fiction, everything that might not be exactly true. And by the way, we have a new problem with X, which was formerly Twitter, which is that you cannot walk a foot in it without, being covered in anti-Semitic leeches if your last name sounds like mine. And Dave, I've understood the same thing has been happening to you. We are not finding the formula for a good life. It's not coming about by censorship. It's not coming about by false expertise. And it's not coming about by an anonymous free-for-all where everybody is sharing everything at an equal level, and we have no ability to discern what's going on. And it's not being settled through debate or combat, David. I agree with you on that.
All right. So first, the quote that a nation is a group of people that have agreed to forget something in common, there's a lot of truth there. In the case of World War II, we, and I hate to put this in a collective, but I'll say Americans in general, we have forgotten the messy details of that time because people like a clean story. We like good versus evil. And most people really can't be bothered to get into the details at that level of granularity because it takes a lot of effort and we don't have time. You have a million higher priorities in your life than worrying about the minutia of war that happened almost a century ago. The American Revolution is another great example of this collective narrative that isn't exactly true. We're taught that a group of heroic men came together to make the most free country in the world, and the Constitution is this magic document that keeps our rights protected, and so on. You know the story. But the founders didn't all agree on things. The different states didn't all agree on things. Several of them were much more inclined to build a large nation state rather than let individual states rule themselves. And the Constitution gets trampled on every single day in Washington. But that's not to say that that narrative is entirely useless. It does get people to believe in the idea of freedom, something that when people pick at it from the anarchist perspective, I'm on board with, because I know that their goals are more freedom and less state control. But when people on the collectivist side try to pick at it, I do worry, because, like Eric, I know that those people, they want to rid us of that mythology in order to make things worse. So, in the World War II case, I know what Eric is worried about, and Douglas Murray, to the extent that he's being honest, which I don't think is too much, they're worried that people are picking the narrative apart because they will take the wrong lesson from what happened. The wrong lesson would be that Hitler wasn't as bad as we thought, that maybe Jews deserved it or something. That's not it. But the collective narrative that we're taught isn't fully accurate either, and the story we remember from it is incomplete. The mythology, the story that we're supposed to pick out, the lesson, is incomplete. So picking it apart for that reason is good and maybe necessary, because it's not just that Hitler was bad, the racial scapegoating is horrific, and that it's not that Nazi equals anyone we don't like. That's not the full story. People like Dave, and I won't even say Daryl Cooper because I'm not as familiar with him, and I have seen some things from him I'm not sure I agree with, but Dave, at least, is trying to figure out why these things happen. How did we get to the point where people in the 1930s Germany were so swayed by these ideas? How did we get to the point where Israel is so hated by its neighbors? How did we get to the point where Ukraine was invaded by Russia? And if you're really intellectually honest about this, you have to be able to answer these questions. And I can't say I know all the answers, but I know that we're not taught about them. We're not even supposed to ask. You see how Murray reacted when questions are even brought up. And it's not just asking questions like people like to point to. That's a fallacy. It's the answers that they don't like, because it's not just good versus evil. It's not just America saves the day and we're the good guys. It's not that Israel is just surrounded by barbarians. It's not just that Putin is some evil dictator. Maybe part of that is the truth, but when you look at things honestly, you find it gets messy. And there are reasons people get pushed to those extremes, and there can be bad things happening on both sides. And to reduce it to just this simple thing, it might sell a happy narrative, it might keep most people happy, but if it's filled with untruths, then of course people are going to pick at it. So I think picking at it can be good, even for us unlicensed professionals. And it does come down to being smart and having good intentions, I guess. But if we're not learning the right lesson or the full, complete lesson of these historical events, then we're just doomed to repeat them. So the lesson is, it's not that we must simply condemn those who use state power to do evil. The lessons are deeper. It gets to why do we let people get that power to begin with? What motivates the evil, and why do people go along with it? So if you're gatekeeping people from asking and answering those questions, we're going to be worse off for it. So that's it for today. Thanks everybody for joining. Next time I want to follow up on the other part of what Eric said in that last clip, that we're not finding our way to truth through our current strategies. I have a lot of thoughts on that, but I'll save it for next time. I appreciate you spending your morning with me. Hope it helps keep some sanity. Zoom out, take a bird's eye view of what's going on around you, and the day-to-day craziness then doesn't seem so bad. Thanks again. I will see you next time.
Come, family. Sit in the snow with Daddy and let us all bask in television's warm, glowing, warming glow.
Everything is going to be fine.